Radio Retrofuture.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Radio Retrofuture. And today we have another guest on our channel, as Drummond. Hello, as how are you doing?
Incredibly well, thank you so much, Bonsart. How about yourself?
Yes, doing just wonderful. A bit nervous about the link that apparently wasn't working properly, but it should be working now. So, the subject of tonight's show will be a upcoming game called Reichbusters Project Vril by Mythic Games. But before we get started about that, tell us a little bit about you as.
Oh goodness, we'll do the boring stuff first.
Yes.
So my name's Drummond. I'm the Community and Communications Manager at Mythic Games. So basically means that you'll see me at conventions, you'll see me on lives and chatting about our games and generally just being out there involved with our community and kind of sharing stuff with them. I'm kind of a bit of jack of all trades, kind of master of none a little bit at Mythic Games. So I'm very, very lucky to get to be the person that shows off all the wonderful art, the wonderful sculpts, the wonderful gameplay, all the different things that come with our games. So it's a really pleasurable and enjoyable job that I do currently.
Yeah. How big is Mythic Games? How many employees?
Oh man, so yes, because we're quite a young company still, at just about 2.5 years old, and we grew very, very quickly from about 6 staff with Mythic Battles Pantheon whenever we did that 50-50 with Monolith. We had our first big solo Kickstarter with Joan of Arc, and that just went massive. And the decision was kind of made then to say, okay, we've got a really good game here, a really good company, let's invest. And over the past year, we've now grown up to, I believe it's 27 staff now full time. And that ranges from game developers, game designers, of course, sculptors, artists, layout guys, communication staff, of course, as well, and then a bunch of support staff too. So we're not massive by any stretch of the imagination, but we at sort of 27, we've got people in France, in the UK, Poland. We have contractors that work from Spain. So we're really diverse, and we've got guys from Greece as well who have come across the UK to work with us. So we're a really diverse bunch and a good size right now, I think. Yeah,
right, incredible. And judging the name Mythic Games, is there a connection to that name and the themes of your games, because you have historical and both literary references? Is that coincidence?
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Bonsart, which is whenever we did Mythic Battles Pantheon, that was originally Benoit Vogt game design. He's one of our 2 directors, and Mythic Games was really set up to make these epic, engaging games that could really excite you and kind of leap off the table. And I think we've endeavored to do that with Joan of Arc. I think that's a game which appreciates the narrative, but also the legendary and mythological. And then we did the same with Solomon Kane. We had a lot of supernatural and kind of ghostly and empowering effects. And then Reichbusters again is another game which has gone over the top. Now, I must say, I don't think it's something that we're going to adhere to forever. We definitely want to diversify our portfolio a little bit. We want to branch out into retail and other games, but it's something that I think will always hold true to our larger games when we really have a world that you can lose yourself in. We always want it to be mythical and kind of epic.
All right. I was wondering about that. So, before we start talking about Reichbusters, for the people who are in the chat, be free to ask any questions there. And with that being said, Reichbusters. So, could you give us a quick elevator pitch, because that's how we met?
It is absolutely, because the funny thing, we met, Bonsart, at the launch, the first real public release of Reichbusters Project Vril, which was at Essenspiel last year in October, and we took a bit of a leap to take a game which is essentially a weird World War II setting, where you're pitching the Allied nation's absolute best heroes, the Reichbusters, against the evil Vrilmeisters, these scientists who have kind of gone behind the Nazi Reich and started their own experimentation, their own mutations and manifestations and machinations, these machines they're trying to make using this energy source of Vril. And essentially the whole game revolves around you and a team of Reichbusters. You always play the Allied heroes, coming together, cooperating completely, going behind enemy lines on dangerous missions to find the unknown, essentially, to delve into a world that really you're going to be constantly surprised and constantly challenged to stop the Vrillmeisters in their tracks, because if they kind of get their research, they get their mutations and experiments to the front lines at the end of the Second World War, the whole world could kind of grow not as we know it. Everything could turn the tide, and it would be a completely world. And that's that kind of alt reality, weird World War II thing, over the top action that we wanted to embrace with the game.
All right. I have to, mention Tannhauser. I'm not. Are you familiar with that board game?
We absolutely are, and I'll tell you right out the bat. Right when we did the first prototyping of Reichbusters, I have no problem saying this. We had a plethora of Tannhauser minis that we were using for our first playtest. We had loads of different ideas around that. We also looked at Dust minis, and the 1947. Because we knew we wanted to create our own world, but we definitely weren't ignoring the things that had gone before, and the pulp action movies and the over-the-top flair of things like Wolfenstein and Sucker Punch, and these kind of machine and things like Dust, and I think Conflict 47 from the guys at Warlord. These are all kind of games we're all aware of as a company, so we totally embraced. We played with them a little bit. We played with their minis. We thought, how do we want to make ours feel like something people are familiar to, but different? So that was all part of where we started.
So currently I'm playing a lot of World of Smog, also quite new. And it reminds me a lot of the old Hero Quest game, which was one of the first complex. Well, we wouldn't call it complex anymore. It's incredible if you've seen from where board games like this started and are now ended up. Does it use a similar system?
I must admit, I don't know if you know this, Sponsor. I just mentioned something to you, but one of our lead game designers is actually David Riccotto, who designed World of Smog.
Oh, really?
He is actually working on a future title of ours coming this summer that we just teased for the first time last week, called Hell: The Last Saga. So we actually, So we're very lucky to have, because the World of Smog is just such a wonderful game, both visually and from a narrative perspective.
The Kickstarter set and the miniatures are just incredible. What they can do with these miniatures. I was really amazed. I still have to do a review on it, but
there's so many games. Whenever you see 3,500 games releasing every year, it's hard to find all the time to play them and review them, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I've got a board game collection right now. I don't know where to leave them. I already partake in the Kickstarter for your game as well. So
thank you,
including Project X. So I had something to celebrate.
Talk about the gameplay, I guess, because you asked me that, and sorry, I didn't answer you, which is the Reichbusters gameplay. It will be kind of familiar and kind of different to you, because it's area movement, and it's kind of dungeon exploring almost, except the map tends to be completely laid out, but what's in each of the rooms and what you're going to be coming up against is kind of the unknown. You have to be opening doors, investigating, searching. You won't always know how your objective or how your kind of side missions, your side rooms and such are going to pan out until you actually go. And a lot of the kind of base actions of moving, attacking, picking up items, opening doors, interacting, it's all going to be very familiar to anyone who's played anything like Zombicide or any kind of Dungeon Delver, for example. But the thing that makes it very, very, very different is two things. We have first of all the noise system, which means every card, every action, everything you decide to do will come with a certain element of known risk. So you know how many noise dice you're going to have to roll to open a door versus picking up an item, and there may be small items that just is one dice, or very loud, big items like weapons and Vril technology that are maybe 2 or 3 dice, these kind of things. So you have decisions to make all the time about how much time you want to spend picking up and equipping yourself. The second thing that really makes the game feel different is it really always falls into 2 parts, and it's not necessarily right down the middle. It's not always half and half. The first part is the stealth phase, essentially, where you're trying to get as far into the castle or the bunker or the lair as you can before you're detected, before the Vrillmeisters find out that you're there. Inevitably, though, you're going to either have to throw a grenade or throw something big, make some noise to clear a room, or you're going to make a mistake, or you're just going to unfortunately come across a patrol who are suspicious of you and kind of they get the jump on you, and eventually the alarm is going to go off. And once the alarm goes off, you fall into a completely different game. Stealth is out the window, espionage is kind of done, and now you're kind of all guns blazing, and that's where the over-the-top action comes in. And because we've got 17 different heroes in the Kickstarter, every hero is completely different. So, we've got a Gurkha, for example, we've got a British bowman, we've got a Canadian scientist, we've got a French resistance fighter, we've actually got a German tank hunter turncoat who joins the Reichbusters because he doesn't like what the Vrillmeisters are doing with these horrible mutations. So every character brings a bit of flair, and every character handles the stealth phase and the kind of infiltration, and then the explosive kind of action phase that will inevitably come in different ways. And that's the thing I think that makes Reichbusters really just an engaging and fun game to play.
Right. So how random is it? Is like the map predetermined in a kind of a mission book, or?
You sort of nailed it. There's two ways to play the game. You can either play it in campaign mode, where you'll basically have an ongoing progressive campaign where you'll be given a map and clear objectives that you have to complete. And that will tell a bit of a story, because it's kind of you taking on the role of the Reichbusters as they paratroop, because they kind of drop in behind enemy lines and they go into the unknown. And you'll start off by facing soldiers, dogs, Nazi officers, scientists. But as you go on, you'll start to come across the experimentations, the Sturmsoldats in huge heavy armor, the sentry guns and flamers and turrets, the horribly mutated soldiers with scythes for hands, these kind of horrible Vril things. But that happens progressively as you go through the story and as it gets worse. The other way you can play is what we call the raid mode. And this can either be predetermined or randomized depending on what you want to do. And this was actually the part of the game that we wanted to develop first. We actually did this before the campaign. And that's where you pick any map, and there's multiple different map layouts, any mission, and again there's multiple different missions, and any Vrillmeister faction, and there's multiple different factions. And each one of those maps and missions and factions will give you a different experience. And I think the most fun point is the faction, because some of the factions are incredibly different from one another. It's not a game, I don't like to compare things too much, but it's not a game where you just take all the minis out of the box and that's what you're playing with. When you pick a faction, you're going to pick up that Vrillmeister. General Wolf, for example, is big into heavy infantry, heavy mechanized soldiers. His faction card will play very differently to Gisela Gruber, who's more into the science and the biology of what she can do with this mysterious part of Vril. So you can do the raid mode. On top of that, then, you've got the customization of your heroes. So you've got, obviously, up to 4 different heroes, Reichbusters you can play at once, and their weapons are kind of predetermined, but their skills can be completely changed. And your, what we call kind of your team card can also be changed. So you can say, right, guys, we know our map, we know our mission, and we know our enemy. These are the 4 heroes I think would be best for this, and this is the team card that I think will suit it best. And the team card will usually dictate a specific team skill. It'll dictate what loadout you're given at the start, which is usually to suit the skill. So maybe it's stealthy, maybe it's more theft orientated, maybe it's more explosive orientated, maybe it's more support orientated. And then finally, it'll dictate what actual skills you can dish out to your heroes. So whether you're doing the campaign or whether you're doing the raid mode, you can get very different experiences. And that's even if you don't want to just make your own maps and make your own world and just go mad. Because of course you can do that as well with the tile.
All right, something in the chat. Was there any inspiration from Frankenstein's army?
I don't know if Frankenstein's army per se, but we wanted some of the traditional tropes. So, for example, we have zombies, but in our case, they're not just biologically reanimated. They are dead soldiers who have armor bolted onto them and Vril then inserted into them, kind of against their will per se, to just become meat shields, shambling, running meat shields. So they're very much focused on the Vril background. So yeah, we wanted to have mutations and fun stuff like that, but we wanted it all to make sense in terms of the technology that would exist for us.
Right. Well, what's your favorite unit?
Oh my goodness, man, that's a tough one. I mean, I'll put aside Project X for a second because he's kind of a special beast. Like he is something just absolutely terrifying. I generally think the tracking bombers for me are the best, and the tracking bombers are little automated 4-legged scuttling bombs. Basically, that's all they are. Is they kind of they move around very slowly, kind of just looking to find a hero, and then when they have a special keyword called scuttle, which means when they see a hero, they double their movement. So essentially, you might see one coming, but as soon as it gets a straight line run at you, it's going to launch itself at you. And when you detonate it, if you do it with a shot or explosive attack, it can take out an entire area. It can explode, killing both allies and Nazi units at the same time. And the cool thing about it is it can be both the most terrifying unit and sometimes the most helpful at times, because sometimes you kind of can take out a couple of enemies at the same time as you take it out, and other times you're fleeing for the exit knowing if this thing catches you, you're all about to be knocked unconscious and it's going to completely foil the mission. So that to me is a real epitome of a unit that excites every time you see it.
Yeah. To clarify for the viewers, it's a game you play against the board, as it were.
That's right. Absolutely right. There's no overlord or sort of one versus many. This is we primarily say a 2 to 4 player, but you can play it 1 player as well. 1 to 4 co-op. There's literally no versus mode. We made a decision very early in the development that we wanted to have over-the-top heroes, exciting, kind of engaging, just really brash and bold heroes. But we also wanted to have very dark and creepy and terrifying Vrillmeisters and Nazi factions. We did not want players ever playing as the Nazis. We decided early that that wasn't something we wanted to offer, even though there are many historical games and many games out there that people can do that. Because we were exploding it and exaggerating it and making our own world, we said, no, we want everyone to feel heroic. There's literally heroic points in the game, and those heroic points can make for great moments when you need to clinch a victory, and they can also be spent to upgrade your hero's skills during the campaign, which is awesome. So being heroic and being brave and the heroes you get rewarded for, and that to me is kind of one of the cornerstones of the play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's kind of a nice segue into another topic we slightly discussed before the broadcast, about people posting messages on your forum like, please don't make a game about Nazis.
Yeah.
What was your impression when you first wrote those comments?
So, if I'm honest, we thought about this, way ahead, right at the start of the development, because we know the preconception that people can have of these. And to be very honest with you, the very initial thought was, this game, we wanted to be set in World War II, and we want it to be over the top. We want some stuff to be familiar, so it feels right to the setting, but we also want to develop our own world. And for us, we want an enemy that everybody can understand. So, for example, aliens, zombies, Nazis. This is an enemy which everyone goes, these are bad, these are evil, not to be confused with Germans in any way, shape, or form. Be very, very clear about that. We were saying these are Nazis, these are scientists, these are Vrillmeisters who are doing horrible things to their own soldiers, to their own men, and doing evil scientist level stuff. So for us, we were happy right at the get-go that there was enough of a disconnect from the real world that we shouldn't really risk, any mix of clarity. Whenever we decided we would launch the game at Essenspiel, I took a lot of time to ensure that everything, for example, with the event organizers was above board, that we were respecting all of Germany's laws, because of course, launching this kind of game in Germany, the last thing we want to do is agitate anybody. So we took that extra time, and we took that extra kind of preparation ahead of the game launching to make sure that what we were doing was fine. And yeah, when people say, don't make a game with Nazis, I absolutely understand that. We are not glorifying them, so I'm very happy that we're not doing that. And people also just don't like to see the same old stuff again and again. And I can understand that. If you've played Call of Duty and Wolfenstein, back in the day, there's plenty of games out there where you can fight Nazis, but for us, there's no game like Reichbusters where you can fight Nazis as over-the-top Hollywood Rambo style, balls to the wall heroes, so we have carved something new. And what's funny is for every comment that I see saying, don't make a game where you fight Nazis, I also see comments, people saying, I want to play as the Nazis. I want a 1v1 mode. I want to have 4 heroes and have me playing as the guys trying to stop them and take them down. So it's tricky. You definitely can't please everybody, but I think we've done a good job of differentiating our reality, our weird world wall setting, Vril setting with the actual, So not too worried.
Okay. And I had something just came up to me. I was about German laws, and I just recalled that Games Workshop Steel Legion units were not allowed to be sold in Germany.
Oh my word.
Yeah, this is a long time ago during their Armageddon campaign, but the Steel Legion, they're kind of inspired by, more like World War I Germans, I think. But you can see the references. But they had this insignia with a lightning symbol, and that lightning symbol reminded them too much of the SS symbol.
Yeah. And I understand that. You really can't be too safe and too cautious when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm not much a fan of such laws, to be quite honest. But discussion for another time.
I mean, this is the thing. You want to have fun when you play games, and for us, and okay, we it's one thing to be involved in a topic that can be contentious, it's another thing to glorify or make it look okay. And for us, that we very much ensured that we didn't do that, and that the gameplay and the fun was the thing that really shone through. And I think we managed to do that. And you've got, as I say, you've got to be respectful and funny. Like with games we've done before, obviously we did Joan of Arc, which is a game completely about a female protagonist and a story and everything that the people of her time believed in. And then we also then switched to a story all about Solomon Kane, who's an English Puritan, led by his beliefs. We're no stranger as a company to dealing with topics of their time, I guess would be a good way to say it. That are a bit we have to be treated carefully with. So we're always very respectful.
Yeah, currently I'm doing an analysis. I'm working on the analysis of BioShock 1 and 2, and so there's a lot of stuff in there. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. The BioShock franchise is just a truly, truly, truly wonderful game. I'll be honest with you, I'm halfway through BioShock Infinite. I never actually got it finished. I'm very, very sad to say. But BioShock 1 and 2 were games that I absolutely adored. And there was one point, something we've never actually shared, but there was one point where we had a unit in Reichbusters when we were developing and working on the art and sculpt. And we thought, actually, this is maybe nearing too much something like a Big Daddy. Yeah, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? Yeah.
We don't, because we always wanted to have it something that would be semi-recognizable, but we also wanted to make our own world. So we sort of had to say, no, actually, stop. This sculpt isn't working, because the last thing we want is people. Actually, to double back a little, we don't want people to confuse. We want our world to be our world, and then Project Phil to stand alone as its own thing, and so it's tricky because there's nothing particularly steampunkish in Reichbusters, but when you look at the real technology and how it's used to kind of over enhance existing things, it has a likeness. You can see elements of similarity.
Oh yeah. Well, they draw from the same source. I mean.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer to talk about the sources of steampunk rather than what is steampunk. That is coming from the guy who made the Steampunk Beginner's Guide. So if you haven't watched that yet. But before we get to the final word on Reichbusters, like many people, I too have like these aspirations to make board games. But now looking at, for example, projects like, World of Smog, Reichbusters, and there are too many these days. Like, how high has the bar become for people who want to start out making board games?
Oh man, what a great question, because I think actually that there's two ways you can kind of look at that. And the first one is, yes, the board games themselves, I think the bar has been pushed right up. Component quality, gameplay quality, replayability, value for money, story. Every game, I kind of feel these days, when it kind of gets a certain amount of press, starts being a target for judgment on kind of whatever its key factor is. Maybe it's art, maybe it's component, maybe it's how often can I play this, who can I play this with. And I think the board game community can be quite analytical about this stuff. They want to say, why am I going to buy this? Why is this better than the next one? Because there are so many out there now. It's
incredible, looking around that spiel. I mean, just the board. I bought one of those Geek and Son tables.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so just look at that market. How many of those companies are out there now?
Yeah, and again, it's fluctuating all the time. Geek and Son's a wonderful, wonderful company. I really like to see that stuff. But then, unfortunately, a year ago, I think it was roughly, we saw Geek Chic, another kind of geek furniture company, unfortunately, go under. And there's a real fluctuation in the market, and it is hard to tell, just where the tipping point will be. If some people are saying, "Oh, I've got no more space for board games. I've got no more space for big Kickstarters," but we do still see them doing well. The other side of the coin is there's so much content out there and so much inspiration now. I think it's easier than ever to take your prototype and just put it under the eyes of a publisher. And I can speak, very openly about that because at Spiel, I think we had something like 11 different prototypes, 11, 12 different prototypes that we looked at, one of which we actually picked up immediately. And at Cannes, the Festival International de Jeux, which was just last week, which had the Asdor awards there. They do awards for the children's and the adults and kind of the general game, and we saw the Mind Tech. I think it was the general game award, which is notably one of the most simple games you may have ever played in your life. It's just 100 cards numbered 1 to 100. So you can win people over and you can get very well recognized games. You just need to get out there. You just got to make it, test it, prototype it, and get it under the eyes of people. Get on Facebook. There's so many groups out there now for playtesting and engaging with the communities. It's hard to be seen, but if you try hard enough, I think there's potential. So the bar's been raised, but there's more opportunity than ever.
All right, wonderful message. Now I kind of wonder how do you present a good prototype? But let's get back to Reichbusters.
No, yeah, I'll chat as long as you like. We can chat prototypes.
Maybe you can do a separate video on that if you have some time. All right, we'll consider that because that's a personal interest of mine. But I'm sure there are because I never seen a video on that. Quite honestly,
we'll not delve into it now, but it's very much. It depends on your game, it depends on who you're targeting at, and it depends what publisher you think should publish it. There's different expectations for each, I think. So there's a lot of potential kind of feedback and ideas you can go into with people.
All right. But let's get back to Reichbusters. Because right now there's a Kickstarter going. How can people support the game, buy the game, and of course, what's the future for Reichbusters?
Oh, that's a killer question. So, at the moment, the Kickstarter finished on the 30th of November last year. So we're very, very happy with it. It raised over $900,000. We had over 6,000 backers. So we were super, super happy with how everything went with Reichbusters. It was really, really great. We now have the Pledge Manager open and also late pledges open. So if you didn't pick up during the Kickstarter, you can get everything that was available in the Kickstarter is in the late pledge. Plus, we added a bunch of little extra things during the Pledge Managers as well. So some things that were driven by us. For example, we had an army painter set. We kind of brokered a partnership with those guys and Seb Levine, our in-house painter, to get a specific set of paints that could paint your entire Reichbusters board game, basically, in all the kind of traditional colors that we've shown. We also have nice normal stuff like neoprene mat, extra dice, card sleeves, dice tray, because it's a very dice chucky game, so dice tray felt really, really right. And then we had some community-driven stuff. We had a beautiful piece of art done by Paolo Parente himself, a very, very, very well-known game developer and artist who did our stretch goal box. So we have a specific box for all the stretch goals to go in, and it showed the cargo plane that the cargo hold, we called the box, that the Reichbusters used to basically drop behind enemy lines. And on the side of it was Sergeant Sally, our kind of pin-up motivational hero. So we got a lot of positive feedback on that from the community whenever we showed it off during the campaign. So what we did was we turned that piece of art into an ultimate sculpt that we popped on the Pledge Manager as well. So that's something that we added in just as a thank you and just a recognition to the feedback that the art got. So the late pledges for Reichbusters are open until April 2nd. Ideally, we always hope that everyone who backed during the Kickstarter will come and give us their shipping details. It always blows my mind that we have to kind of chase everybody and say, hey, please tell us where to ship your game, because if you don't...
I got similar mails like, please put in your something, and I was like, but I filled in everything, didn't I? And it was, oh, wait, the language. I needed to fill in the language.
That's it. We're still chasing language selections for previous Kickstarters like Solomon Kane and Joan of Arc, and those have been gone for quite some time now, and we still please just tell us what language you want it in.
Is the link because the link on your website pointed to the Kickstarter, but the late pledge is not on Kickstarter?
That's right. It's I'll pop it in the YouTube chat now, just in case anyone is watching now or later. It is on a website called GameOnTabletop.com. Game on Tabletop is primarily a pledge manager site, although I do think they've also got some crowdfunding ongoing campaigns there. And we've done all of our campaigns up until now have been on Game on Tabletop. So it's the best place you can go to either fill out your pledge details or to lay a pledge.
Right. Is your entire company, did it all, was it all Kickstarter funded?
At the moment, yes. And so we had Joan of, well, if you, from a solo perspective with just Mythic Games, we had Joan of Arc, then Solomon Kane, and then Reichbusters. So three campaigns that were all primarily on Kickstarter. I am very happy to say, though, and I don't mind sharing this with you and the guys watching at home, we're going to GAMA, which is a big convention in Reno, Nevada, in just over a week, which is a huge retailer and distributor convention. It'll be our first time there. And we're going to be broaching a lot of kind of conversations and meetings around distribution and around retail support in the future. So we're at that stage now where we've kind of grown and we've had enough success that we're very much looking forward to making the step into retail. And we should have some details to share in that in kind of coming weeks. So it's that tipping point where we've got some more Kickstarter planned, but we also want to get some games into retail for some regular support out there. And then we also, I mean, I know you asked earlier what the future for Reichbusters is. We already have teased just a little bit that we're very interested in a season 2 sort of expansion and looking at growing the world of Reichbusters. I think Nazis on the moon or Nazis on Antarctica or Nazis time traveling. There's so much potential out there that we want to see where it goes, because we did Project X with Reichbusters Project Phil. We had Project X, which was like our big boss, and then we also had Not of This Earth, which was essentially our Reichbusters going through the Vril portal and going off planet to an unknown place with different gameplay, fighting alien races and getting caught in a battle between the Nazis and the aliens and being stuck in this kind of trifecta war. So we're now thinking, where could we go next? So yeah, there's going to be more Reichbusters, and hopefully in the future for us, not just more Kickstarter projects, but also some retailers.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. If that second season comes out, that was probably going to be the last of my shelf space.
There's always more shells. IKEA Kallaxes, man. What would we do without them, you know?
Yeah. Somebody already mentions Iron Sky. Will we, in that case, get to see Nazis riding dinosaurs?
I knew you were going to say it. I must admit, we had to show quite a bit of self-restraint with Reichbusters Project Vril. This was the first game in this series, and I think we wanted it to be a game that you could fit on a shelf and it could be sold in stores, for example. We had to hold restraint with dinosaurs, with making... We even discussed making like an entire map based around a half-submerged U-boat that was like powered by Vril technology that the Reichbusters would have to break into. Like, we really had to hold back a little bit so that if all goes well, we have a lot more space to expand into. And I don't know, I personally don't want to rule out dinosaurs, but we'll have to see.
All right, let me see. God damn it, my computer is not working. All right, could I adjust the mic? Oh, my mic on my side seems to be working just fine.
It's very clear to me, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got a studio mic, so it's always a bit on the soft side, but, I was afraid somebody said I was muted. Okay, let's see. I think we talked about quite a lot. Do you have some words of wisdom for our audience?
Oh, wisdom? I mean, other than play more games? I mean, it depends. Yeah, if you want to get into prototyping, as we mentioned earlier, and designing and sharing your games, just do it. The best experience you can get is just by trying, realizing the idea you had in your head does not work at all, and having to fix it on paper once you actually do. I've been there a few times myself, and it's the best way to get into it. And advice for words of wisdom for gamers: enjoy it. This is a real peak time for board games. Everything may not be to your liking. There's so many games out there for so many age ranges and for styles of play and length of play. Just embrace it. Find out what you like. Try different things and just enjoy what you do, because there's it's just a plethora of tabletop stuff out there right now, and it's a good time to be a board gamer, tabletop gamer.
All right. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. For those who have been listening, I hope you enjoyed this stream. Let us know if you intend to buy this game or not, or what you're looking forward to. Maybe send us some ideas what you would like to see in the second season.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Should we be riding dinosaurs, or should they crossbreed Germans with dinosaurs? Let us know.
If you send us an idea that's already been in pop culture, send us a unique one as well. Send us something off the top of your head. That would be really fun, because you never know. It just might make it in.
All right. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very wonderful day. And of course, as always, make things your way. Good night.